Welcome to my year in review video. 2025 was quite the year and quite a lot of things got done. I started a lot of projects and I got a lot painted. And this video is going to talk about a lot of the things. But if I missed something or you want to see something in particular that I gloss over, let me know what they are so I can actually, make more videos. A year of hobby is quite a lot, and a lot of things get done. Some projects I plan, and they just kind of end up going away and never getting actually touched, and others are quite a bit more interesting when they show up and get done a lot higher priority than originally intended. Throughout the year, there were a few things that really held me back from producing as much content as I was planning to, and certain projects just would not get done, no matter how hard I tried. Other things came up. I started working on Infinity models before I ever actually got any bolt action done. I started working on bolt action and I've built quite a bit, but I haven't actually painted anything yet. I ended up managing 53 Orc minis in October, even though I still have to do 2 oil washes. But overall, the year was amazingly productive, even with feeling the way I did with certain projects. Like, throughout 2025, I think there were at least, I don't know, maybe 20 to 30% of the year I just felt just run down and I needed to do something different. And I still produced stuff. I got a lot of projects done. Um, I usually do a year-end video where I show off all of the models I've painted, and I'm planning something similar to that this year. Um, it should be this clip. So when I do a time-lapse video of what models I painted in a year, I usually place them on a tray so I can pick them up and work in the order that I got them done. And when I started this year's, I did the first panel and then figured I'd just grab all of the ones from the shelf because that was the next thing I did. And then I got to the point where I had done 9 of these, and then I did a few other things before doing the rest, and I was like, okay, well, I could do that, but then I realized there's also a point where I painted up 65 termagants, and although I could go through and pick out which 65 I painted, because they do have different color schemes based on when I painted them, I then realized, I also have 35 generic Dark Angels that I painted. And I got to a point where I was just like, ooh, there's a little bit of dust on that I should probably clean my display cabinets more often. Haha. At least it's on the outside. But I painted so many models this year, and to have to go through and pick out which I did when can actually take several days. And I enjoy seeing what I've painted in a year, but at the same time, that's several days away from painting other things. So I think this year I'm not going to do a time-lapse video, and I don't even think everything I painted would fit on the table, because I also painted all of the Imperial Knights and all of Warhammer Quest and let's see, the Marian Hegemony and the Middle-earth strategy battle games. And just the quantity I painted this year was, well, 842 models. 275 of those being pieces of terrain. And that's a lot to be setting up and taking down and setting up again and taking down. So, yeah, some pictures. But yeah, if you want to actually see everything laid out, it's a lot. And I could put the time and effort into it. It could take 2 or 3 days of filming to do so, though. Like actually setting up all of the trays and everything, it takes a lot of time. If you really want to see that, comment below. A lot of the YouTube algorithm stuff this year has been really wild. I've been very consistent in uploads, and I've had 2 videos that have had more than like 300 or 400 video views. Like I have more subscribers than views on almost every one of my videos. That feels a little bit weird, but it's not about the views so much as showing what I've done, hopefully inspiring everyone else that's going through these same, dips in motivation, creativity, that little spark every now and then. It's fun watching other people's content and going, maybe that little thing right there, maybe that's what I need to try next. Maybe that'll actually be the thing that gets me going into the next project. And I think one of the major things for me this year was I realized I do too many big, massive projects. And those massive projects take a lot of the mental power and perseverance. And I've shown myself that I can go through these processes. I've done the 2,025 points of orcs in a month. I've done the Imperial Knights in, several years, but the last month was just a major push. Painting 65 termagants at once. All of these projects are massive scale projects, and I've done so many of them this year, and I've done them in previous years as well. And I think 2026 is the year of smaller chunks as I work through these things. And I think that's going to be good for the productivity, keeping my motivation up. And getting more of the one-off minis and small units painted up instead of piles and piles of Tyranids. Like, I still want to work on those, but I think just taking the smaller bits and working on that will help a lot. And we're going to test that out. I know this video is going to be very disjointed. I've recorded several different parts, and, you know, this is this way and that's that way, and go with me. It's a longer video. And I'm just trying to get all of the different ideas out because it is a year in review for myself as well. And, you know, I can talk through, like I did last year, with each and every one of my armies and what my ideas are for it and all that stuff. But that's breaking it down into a way to, like, actually keep track of everything. And there are a lot of armies, and the collection is massive. Way more than just this little bit and that little bit. And so I'm getting to a point where it's not just building and painting armies either. Like, I just recently purchased the Villagers and Guards and several other Wargames Atlantics minis, not to build armies, but to try out some new games. I want to try out Frostgrave and Space Station Zero and games where the miniatures are not a specific unit. And I want to try out and see. I want to get more games in. I want to set up a way to record gameplay on the table. And I actually have a second computer, my older streaming computer, and a few extra webcams. And I'm going to try to set things up so I can actually record gameplay. Because it isn't just about sitting here and painting models. That's not the only aspect of this hobby. And I feel like stepping into a wider number of video topics is going to be a good thing. It might actually help the motivation when I go, hey, I'd like to try this game. Majestic 13 actually is something that I'm thinking about. And, like, I haven't actually purchased these games yet, but I have them in mind, and I'm going to look into them. But I have an idea for Majestic 13, and it's going to require me to paint maybe 10 models. And then I'm going to have a couple of gameplays with it. Like, I've not seen anyone play Majestic 13 before. I haven't looked very hard to find other people who have, but I know it exists. I've heard about how a game plays. Why not get some content? You know, let's just buy the game and get a couple of models painted for it and run through a couple of scenarios. It sounds very interesting. I could do Stargrave, Frostgrave, Space Station Zero. I could probably get some demons together if I wanted to try Reign in Hell. I want to run through some BattleTech aces. The ability to run BattleTech as a one-player system sounds amazing, and I want to try that. I have fantasy, and I have sci-fi, and I have all sorts of 40k models, and I think just going through, I can make some model agnostic games play pretty well. So we're going to try that out. I think that's going to be another major thing for 2026. If you have any games like that in mind, leave them in the comments because I have a few in mind. I've mentioned, but more rule books is not a huge toll on the collection as more models would be. And I think that that's good. To go along with my 1 unit per month between the Leagues of Votann and Drukhari, I'm also planning on working on my Tyranids. Not on a regular schedule, but I still have quite a few. And it makes sense to get more of these painted. This is my largest and first 40k army, and I always want to add more to the painted for them. I plan on doing more work on my salamanders, my Legion of the Damned color scheme. I still have a lot of work left to do on those. And I have some Blood Angels conversions I have planned. So I want to work on that. As for Age of Sigmar, I do still have a lot of Skaven and Stormcast. The Cruel Boys still haven't seen anything, and my disciples of Tzeentch can always use some more work. I do hope to get at least a few more units of these done this year. Skaven could definitely use a little bit more work. I want to continue working on my bolt action. I have another whole army that I haven't even started building, so that would be good. I am going to continue working on the Chaos Dwarves, the Chorfs. I have a decent amount already done, and it would be cool if I could get a game in before the end of 2026. That might be my goal for that. My Death Guard did not get it did not get enough votes to be my monthly project. Actually, I don't even think I put it on there as an option because when I do get around to painting it, I want to do some airbrush stuff. So I will take that when the time comes and get some decent progress on that army. Plus, Mortarion's just sitting back there waiting. He's the only Primarch I own, and I just haven't gotten around to paint him yet. And knocking out a little bit of these Necrons shouldn't be that hard. I already have the base color down on a good number of these, so it's just a matter of going through and picking out the other two main colors and doing the wash over them. So I think I can get my Necrons to maybe half as many waiting to be painted. I think that might be a doable thing. And then my Infinity models, I have lots of plans for Infinity. So I know that they're going to get some attention for 2026. And then that is actually Tau. And some more Tau. And more Tau. And even more Tau. And I don't know, I might get around to some of that, but the Infinity is definitely a higher priority, along with many of these other projects. Tau is definitely on the back burner. And the Battletech, these are just the ones that are still in boxes. And these. But there's going to be quite the pile. Of Battletech to be painted in 2026. Because I have, 200 or so models that need it. So they are definitely a priority. And I can easily just take 4 or 5 or however many per lance or star and work on those one at a time. So nice small projects. And when talking about small projects, but having a lot of them, we come to the Marvel Crisis Protocol. And I had a lot of fun this year painting up the Marvel Crisis Protocol minis that I did paint up. So we're going to take that and we're going to do even more of them, because too many of these models are still just primed to have so much fun playing them. The collection still has way too many primed and waiting models. So definitely gonna work through a lot more of these, and having that freedom of working on them 1 or 2 at a time makes the color selection and project size a lot more manageable. So, and I think that's something I need to do more of for 2026. Because looking at a pile of Hormagaunts like this, or Gargoyles, or Termagants, just wave after wave, when painting, 1 or 2 or 5 models, definitely a little bit easier than painting 22 Genestealers, or, 2 Tyrannofex and 2 Tervigon, or, 6 Carnifexes. They're doing the smaller units at a time are going to definitely be a better pace and not be quite as overwhelming as some of the projects I've set for myself in the past. I'm not going to say I'm not going to do any of those massive build and paint sessions. I mean, when I have all of these Skaven waiting to be painted, I could easily just grab 40 of them and paint them all at once. But, maybe 20 at a time instead. So that's one of the things that I want to do for 2026 is try to keep my piles, my project that I'm actually working on at one time, smaller, more manageable. I would rather do several more manageable projects than huge batches at once. I'm going to continue doing a video a week. I know I'm going to be doing my 1 unit per month for whichever army ends up getting chosen. I'm going to continue streaming twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. And as for streams go, I think I need to set aside at least one Gunpla kit per month. Because I've been really enjoying building these things. And I think the streams are definitely fun. So if you enjoy Gunpla, don't forget to join me on streams when I'm on Twitch. And maybe a little bit here extra. I don't know. Scheduling is always one of those things where, you know, right at the beginning of January, you go, okay, yeah, let's do this and let's do that, and it's like it might not work out, but we can have plans for it, you know. Whatever the new, yeah, whatever the new Warhammer launch box is, I want to do a box to battlefield, you know, a box to battle ready type of thing. I really enjoyed doing that with Scaventide. It took a month to paint 2 armies, but I streamed every day for that, and that was really good because each of those sessions was not very large. It was just the consistent back every day to paint more that really made it be a thing that got me through it. And if they're doing orcs this year, that would be, yeah. If the orcs are going to be in the next box, that's going to be amazing because I have some ideas for Orktober 2026. I'm not going to try to paint 2026 models or anything like that. But, you know, I want to get through more. I want to paint more, which is crazy to think about when I see what I actually accomplished this year. Like, I know people do videos with how many models they painted in a year, and, you know, if it's more than one, you've succeeded. It's not a race against other people. It's a personal level here, and, like, I've seen my painting skill increase. It's better now than it was a year ago. And 2 years ago, I'm like, wow, that was what I was painting like compared to now. And I'm looking forward to seeing where I go for the next year. Because, like, if I pick out some of my favorite models I painted in 2024, it's going to be mostly the things at the end. 2025, I have a lot of really cool models that I've painted. And I've tried out new techniques, and I've started using the airbrush, and, like, just it's so much more to it, and I can't wait to see what 2026 teaches me. Like, the batch painting has been great for, you know, consistency and color choice and stuff like that. But when I get to the one-off models, I really get to push myself a little bit further and see how much better I can do with those. And I think that's where I'm going to be focusing more of my time and effort this year. Because even with the army growth project, I'm just looking to do 12 units. I have a full month to work on them at whatever pace that they feel comfortable with, and just get 1 unit per month with that. And if I don't do any other army projects throughout the year, at the end of 2026, I'm going to have a solid 12 units painted. And that probably won't be 2,000 points. I don't think I'm going to be doing any units that large, but even if it's 1,000 points, that's a massive amount painted for one army. And I've taken my time to do it. And I think that's going to be really important for 2026. So, yeah, it's a lot. And thank you for coming on the journey with me, because it's always fun to see where the journey leads. And the destination is models are going to be painted, games are going to be played, the pile is going to grow. Even though it's huge, I know it's going to grow. Like, the destination, it's there. It's the journey. The journey is definitely what matters. So thank you for coming along with me. And so another year ends, and the bunker changes slightly here and there. Who knows what the next year will bring? But it is always fun to see how things change. So, still plenty of space for new models to be finished, new projects to get added. But we will see how everything changes over the course of 2026. Subscribe if you haven't, so that you don't miss any future videos. I also want to thank my patrons and supporters for making these videos possible. And until next time, I hope you find your bit of bliss.